Good morning, everyone. As far as you see, I'm still wearing the same outfit. So, I put in the Facebook book group, I changed it from the Facebook Live to Facebook Zoom recordings that I'm going to share. So, and then today on Wednesday morning, I have honor to have our second guest, Kesley Rogers, right? And she's from Alabama, right? Alabama.
Yes.
And we have an hour time differences. So it's the universe, how universe works, right? I supposed to talk to her at 8:30 my time, but she joined at 9:30 when I was wrapping up with beautiful Jane. So I'm like, how does it works? But I think the universe always bring people at the right time, right? Call it divine timing. So Kathleen, will you introduce yourself a little bit to our group?
Yes. So I am a licensed mental health counselor. I am located in Alabama, but currently only licensed to see people in Tennessee. So
Okay.
um,
How that
that
works?
is interesting, right?
Yeah.
I do only telehealth sessions right now, so
Okay.
everything's virtual. Um, and I work with a variety of different populations, but specifically work with teens, people with neurodivergence, um, forensic populations, substance use. Those kind of hit my main people that I tend to work with and provide individual therapy for.
Mhm. So, okay, before we go to dive into this very professional part, a lot of names that I probably needed you ask you to explain because I always tell people if you explain this to 10 years old, how you will explain. But before that, how how did you get into, wanting or design to serving the people in this population? Like what's your life before? Like what made you say, hey, this is my career path? Is there any story back there?
Pretty much since I was like a teenager, I wanted to be in the mental health field. Before that, I wanted to be in the criminal justice field. So working with um originally working with victims was kind of my passion when I was younger, wanting to serve other people, wanting to give back to other people who have been victims of crimes. As I got older, I started to realize that everyone is human, and even the people who are committing the crimes are also human and deserve care too. So
Hmm.
that's really where that passion like grew. But basically, since I took an intro to psychology class when I was like 15 or 16, I knew I wanted to be in the mental health field.
You started very young. When I was
Yeah.
15 years old, I was fighting my dad to go to a high school that he didn't want me to go. Definitely not thinking about anything about mental health, probably thinking about my own freedom, probably fighting for
Yeah.
myself. So kudos to you. Okay. So in your intro, you wrote, and I read it, you have a very interesting, not interesting, very unique group of people you work, right? Because you work in
Yes.
prison and hospital. So give us a little bit of behind the scene of your experience when you work in this, special setting. As far as, like, is there also that moment of you realize that you're not, as victim and a villain, they both. So tell us a little bit because I'm very curious and I think I don't want to butcher whatever, this experience. I want to hear from you.
Yeah. So I started working in a state correctional facility in Alabama when I was 20.
Mhm.
So I knew I was getting ready to start my master's program and I wanted a good job that I could do while being in my master's program and also get some mental health experience. So at
Yeah.
this point, I still was not like committed to working with like criminals in the offender population, but
Mhm.
this was the job that was open. So this was the job, like I took this job. And so basically, I was a suicide um, observer. So any of the people who are on suicide watch, I would observe them and make sure that they were safe, make sure they weren't doing anything to harm themselves,
Wow.
while like the trained and licensed therapists and doctors were working with them like
Hmm.
behind, an hour or 2 hours a day. I was with them like 24 hours a day. So I mean, of course I wasn't there 24 hours a day, but we worked shifts. So
Yeah.
me and my coworkers would monitor these people all day. Um, and then report whatever we saw back to our therapists and our doctors.
Yeah.
And so being seeing people in that really vulnerable state, of course there are people who like played the system and was trying to be there for safety so that they didn't get hurt
Mm-hmm.
out in general population.
Yeah.
But there were also people who really did like need that mental health care. And so I think seeing people in that vulnerable state, whatever their reason for being there was, it just really reminded me like that this division that we normally see ourselves like as offenders and as people of what we would call like the free world, the people who are not incarcerated, we tend to separate us, but in reality, we're all human. Like that's the thing that binds us all is we're all human. We all have human DNA, and that means we all deserve care and treatment as if we're all human beings. And so that really motivated me to want to help that population more because that population was definitely one that was not receiving adequate care, still is not receiving adequate care. Even though I don't like work in that population right with that population directly right now,
Mm-hmm.
they're not receiving adequate care. A lot of our prisons are being sued for the mental health care that they're providing or lack thereof. So it really made me want to be a voice for these people who really did not have a voice, especially outside of the prison walls.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very powerful. And you are the second person that I personally, not know, but one of my teacher I share that she's start with her journey. She's w worked in the prison for probably 5 years also. And that definitely changed how you see the world, how perceive the world, and how a lot of work we do have much compassion, right? See both sides of the story, treat people as human, not as they put on to people, right? So share
Right.
with us a little bit from there, what changed your like because you were going to your master degree, right? And what
Yeah.
what do you choose for your master degree that time?
My master's degree was forensic psychology and counseling.
Okay, tell us a little bit because that's a big word. Okay. I
It
know
is. It's a
it's a big
lot of
word.
words.
Yeah.
So the forensic side of it is basically understanding how the human mind is reactive to these forensic criminal
Mm,
like ideas, whether that also be victims, like correctional officers, like law enforcement, and offenders. Like we studied all different
hmm.
like levels of everyone's involvement into the criminal justice area. So it really like gave me the idea of what everyone's different perspective is and also like how some of those perspectives are the same even if they feel so like different and like they're butting heads.
Yeah. Yeah. So from there, where did your career wise after you are in the program or after the program, where you perceive to, because you
Yep.
also mentioned that you work in the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So during our master's program as counselors, we have to have a year-long internship that's for most people unpaid.
Yeah.
So we do I did mine at a behavioral hospital and I worked with again offenders who had been ruled not competent to stand trial or not guilty by reason of mental illness. So that
Mhm.
means their mental illness is so severe that the judge ruled that they were not competent, like their mental status was so off that they weren't able to um like answer like they
Yeah.
have consequences for their crimes but they don't have to have the typical consequences of their crime.
Okay. So by working with them, does that, how that contribute to your shape to your how you mentioned that you started your practice a year ago, right?
Yeah.
So you are a entrepreneur now.
Yep.
So let's talk about it like after those experience, right? From your young 15s, you work with the special group that they didn't have voice. have you ever thought about what's my mission in this world?
Yeah, I always like said the reason that I went to be a therapist. A lot of people always say, well, I just want to help people. And for me,
Yeah.
it was a little bit deeper than that. It was more so like, yes, I want to help people. I want them to have that voice. So a lot of the populations that I work with don't have the
Mhm.
voice. Like
Yeah.
some of the, I've worked a lot with nonverbal autistic people. So they literally don't have a voice. And then there are other people like the inmate population who is just like kind of excommunicated from the world in their own private area and are not
Yeah.
allowed to, communicate much with the with with regular people, so they don't have a voice either.
Hmm.
So I always have wanted to give that voice to them and be an
Yeah.
advocate for them while also helping them to figure out how to have their own voice. And
That's
that
so
way they can
powerful.
advocate for themselves.
You really are working with group people, literally. Either people don't hear their voice, or people don't believe what I say, or people literally they don't communicate non-verbally, right? Some autism,
Yeah.
they literally that's another. You literally every single area I want to dive in so deep with you. So okay, now the question is for the people in this group, okay, like what are certain people you are looking for to work with, how you can help, because this is as a specific group. Do you understand my question? I try to form a
Yeah.
question like
Like
how,
what is my niche? Like
yeah,
how do how
yeah,
do how
how
do I pick clients?
said it, and how people work with you, because you don't need to be hospital, prison, or parents
Yeah.
with autism kids, which is a really unique. But I want to, from my understanding, that's it. But now, because you start your own practice, like what are the group of clients or people that it's your, kind of your niche to work with, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So even though my background's pretty specific, my practice is not as specific just because all of that background really helped me to figure out and understand people even more, especially the
Yeah.
development process. So I work with a lot of teens.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I also work with people with behavioral issues,
Okay.
ADHD, autism. Um, I work with some couples, a lot of communication skills,
Mm.
working on those things. So basically, if you go into my website, there's like a contact form that you can fill
Yes.
out, and it'll send me an email.
Yes.
And that's kind of how you get started. It's pretty simple.
Yeah. What's your website? What's your website?
It's Denney, DENNEY dash counseling.com.
Okay, great. Is that how people you prefer people to find you to connect with you if they have any
Yeah.
questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm also on Instagram with the same, like my handle is the same, Denney Counseling. Um, and so those are probably the best two ways to get a hold of me.
Great. This is we don't have much time to dive in today, but I would love to invite you back to Unity Through Diversity, which we're gonna record in May and then streaming on Roku TV. That's my main podcast. This is, I probably still gonna share on the YouTube since it's almost 30 minutes, right? Why not? It's like
Yeah.
mini 30 minutes and
Right.
45 minutes, but I like to go through with our guests. The first one, just get to know who they are, introduce them. You definitely have a very interesting background, and I am so excited to, connect with you and also be able to witness what's opening for you to serve the population who you really can help them to either find them voice or advocate for them, because Unity Through Diversity, I said that podcast is literally give people a platform so they can share their story to empower and encourage other people. So we are doing, on different way with our unique talents and gifts, right? To help to set a platform to help people find their voice or speak their voice. So I really thank you so much for, coming out, even though we have an hour differences, but you still on your time and I'm free here. So uh for anyone would like, to love to reach out to Kesley, and I will make sure I put the website. Maybe you send me the correct link for me. And if you guys, any of you feel like you want to share your gifted talents to be able to voice yourself and serve more people, you know, drop a DM to me or send an email to me, and I will make sure that get you on the Facebook share with the world. So thank you so much, Kesley, and thank you guys. I will see you next Wednesday. Okay. All right. Thank you.